get started? Okay, we do have a quorum. David is on remotely? Rose? Okay, great. Welcome, David. We're going to call the meeting to order, and it is 3 o'clock. And the first order of business is to approve the minutes from the June 11th, 2025 meeting, and those were sent out on Monday with the packet for the meeting. So looking for a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the June meeting.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next thing, we did some introductions last time, and Judy, we missed you. You were on vacation, so I hope you had a great time. But we just asked for the new members, could you just share a little bit of background experience and your interest in serving on the Economic and Tourism Development Commission? Just quick, 2 minutes.
Me?
Yes, please.
I'm Judy Crow. I'm currently living at Crow Vineyard and Winery in Kennedyville. It's a 365-acre working farm. We grow grapes, make wine for 3 or 4 other wineries in the area. We're open every day, 12 to 5. Seen many of you there. I hope you had a good time. We're open every day, 12 to 5, and then we also have lunch available. And we also have a bed and breakfast. Not very active right now. It seems like everybody else is someplace else right now, but, so, thank you.
Thank you. So just for the chairman's report, the only thing I really have is I do want to share, and I understand I might have somebody else. Is anybody else completed the Open Meetings Act training that hasn't let me know? I think Judy Gifford, you have.
I did it, yep.
Can you send me that certificate so we can drop it in your file?
Sure.
And I got Joanne's, and Bob completed his. So if anybody else, thank you guys. If everybody could take it, that's wonderful. But we have, our requirement is met by at least having one member who has taken, been certified. So, thank you. So we're going to move on to Sunny. So Sunny Huntsinger is here with us today. I just want to give a little introduction real quick. Sunny was appointed to Main Street Chestertown as their executive director in November, after serving as the Economic Development Administrator for Chester County, PA. Where she launched initiatives to stimulate business growth, attract investment, and revitalize downtown Coatesville. Prior to that, she was the executive director of Downtown Inc., York, Pennsylvania, where she transformed the organization into an economic development agency, tripling the operational budget and significantly expanding volunteer engagements. As the executive director, Sunny leads the efforts to enhance Chestertown's business district, foster community engagement, and promote the area as a premier destination for visitors and residents alike. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Business and an Associate's of Art. And very pleased to have Sunny, the executive director here, as well as Paul Heckles, who is on the executive board for Main Street Chestertown. And this goes back probably about 4 or 5 meetings ago, but we had mentioned the Chestertown master plan, and several members asked for us to invite Sunny so that she could discuss it and review it. So welcome, Sunny and Paul.
Great.
Thank you.
We're going to stand over here so we can see the screen.
Sure.
For everybody. And I'll tag Paul in at midpoint.
And is that mic on?
Yeah.
Good to go. Thank you.
Is mic on? Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us. So I have with me Paul Heckles, as Jamie mentioned. Paul is past president of the board of Main Street Chestertown and the de facto chair of the Master Planning Committee. So we're here to talk about the master plan and where we've been and kind of where we're going. But I thought what I would do is do just a quick little primer. How many of you are understand Main Street Chestertown, know who we are and what we do? Okay, so you want to indulge me just for a minute with a little primer so you have a little bit of background? Great. There we go. And then I'll go through the master plan, a little bit of where we've been with the master plan, but Paul's going to hit the highlights of where we are and where we're going to go with the master plan. So Main Street Chestertown is one of over 1,000 Main Street organizations across the country. Main Street program was founded by the National Trust for Historic Preservation back in the late 70s to preserve downtowns when they were being hollowed out for urban renewal and historic buildings were being demolished. The National Trust created this program, 4-point approach, and it is fed through the state, typically the departments of community development at the state level, and they provide support for the localized programs. We're one of 34 accredited Main Streets in Maryland. We have a board of volunteers, excuse me, board of 12 volunteers who drive the mission, who advance the mission. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. And we typically have 2 full-time staff people. We're at 1.5 right now, but we're working back towards that 2 full-time staff. And then we are funded by 3 sources. We work hand in glove with the town. So the town gives us some financial support. We get grants, programming grants from the state, and those are typically restricted funds that are directed towards our programs and planning. And then we also, because we're 501c3, we are able to collect charitable contributions and apply for certain types of grants limited to nonprofits. So I want to touch a little bit, just real briefly, what is a master plan, what's in a master plan. Obviously, a plan it's the community's vision. Sorry. Just to point out, this wasn't a unilateral, this is Main Street's vision for the community. This was collective community engagement. There were public charrettes. There was a lot of input from community stakeholders. So it's a community's vision for the future. It's a living, breathing document. There are things in this plan that will happen, things that in the plan that may or may not happen, things that will change over time. It's a 5 to 10 year plan. So we expect that it will be a living, breathing document, and it will change in some matters over time. I like the word guidepost because it is a guidepost. It gives us guardrails, kind of says this is where we're all headed together. This is what we want to see ultimately together. And so that kind of gives us the opportunity when ideas come in from the side, development projects come in from the side, we can maintain that focus. And then, most importantly, it supports grant applications. So when you apply for a particular project, most grantors will say, how does it fit into the bigger picture? Now we have a bigger picture. What is in the master plan? Well, it's the outline of the vision, the community's vision. It's the strategy for moving us towards that vision. How are we going to get there? The steps, how we get there. And then it is a portfolio of projects. And I know Jamie sent you a copy of this document. In that document, there are more than 40 recommendations. So it's a portfolio of those projects. So now, phase 1 was last year, primarily 2024, when Main Street contracted with Design Collective out of Baltimore and GMB, which is an engineer. And the first phase of this 3-phase process was to collect the data, to find out what the community wanted, to pull together some pre-design ideas, to present them to the public, which was done in June of last year, and then put a list of the recommendations together, from which we end up with this foundational document, which you've seen. Thanks.
Just in case.
I appreciate that, thank you. Just as a reminder, our geographic focus, Historic District, Arts and Entertainment District, Main Street District, all one and the same. So that's where this effort was primarily held. That's not to say what happens in that core doesn't impact the rest of the community, right? It will impact it economically, it will impact quality of life. If we improve the core district, it's going to ripple out. I also wanted to touch on a few of these points that we did not want to lose focus on as we embarked on this master plan. run through these real quick. We wanted to make sure we were people-centric. But, you know, no plans around the automobiles. We wanted to think about people and community. There is an essence of community in Chestertown, and we wanted to make sure we kept that top of mind. Entries and gateways, we wanted to look at those because sometimes you look at the marina or you look at the bridge coming over Maple and it just doesn't say, welcome to Chestertown. So that was a priority. Open spaces, we wanted to preserve those. We wanted to keep in mind our pedestrians and our cyclists, our micro-mobility. Our streetscapes, they're charming, they're lovely, but there's always room for improvement. Vacant parcels, what can we do with economic development and our opportunity sites? Infrastructure and coastal resilience, we did not want to ignore that. We know that's a factor in any type of plan for a riverfront community. Also, just want to underscore the point that this wasn't just Main Street. Main Street was leading the charge, but all of our community stakeholders were involved in the conversation.
We got a text, it was a little hard to hear you, so we're gonna, on the YouTube, so we're just gonna amplify you a little bit. Thank you.
Okay. So this is just a reference that we did have that community charrette, that there was public engagement, a lot of stakeholder feedback. And so now we are moving in, that was the past, that was 2024, that got us to where we are. We have, like I said, in this foundational document, we have more than 40 recommendations by the experts on ways to improve this downtown. And now I'm going to pass it off to Paul, who's going to tell you about where we are and where we're going with phase 2.
Maybe a little more introduction. So, Paul Heckles. My wife Jane and I retired here in 2011, so I've been here almost 15 years. We live in Chestertown. And then after living here 3 or 4 years, we say we flunked retirement and we bought Twigs and Teacups. And we've renovated that building, and our daughter moved back east from Oregon and she manages it. Our daughter Erin is in there. So we don't really have to be there very often. We can go away for a month and they don't miss us. But we are somewhat still employed, I guess, at this point. And then because of Twigs and just because I love history, I love the town of Chestertown, that's why we decided to come here and spend the rest of our lives here. I got involved in Main Street. I had no idea what it was. Kay McIntosh pulled me in at the beginning, got me on the board and said, hey, you'd make a good president. So there I was. So I was president for 5 years, and then Kristen Owen took over, and she's our current president. But I've always had an interest and a passion around master planning. When I first joined our town program, we went to national and state conferences, and you meet people from main streets all over the state and all over the country. And when you get into conversations, one of the first things that always comes up when we're asking questions, how do we get started? You need a master plan. So what's a master plan? And here we are. We've spent a couple of years getting to this point, which Sunny just kind of gave you the quick top line on. But as she says, it's like 178 pages and 40 specific projects that came out of our work with the community and with our consultants. But we now, moving from here to phase 2, is a very different type of work. So you have it up there, okay. Phase 1 covered the whole, I think of it more like a 5, 10, 15, 20-year time horizon that this phase 1 report covers. And it also covers all the geography of the downtown district and all the different types of projects that could go on in that district. Phase 2, though, becomes what are we going to do today? What are we going to do in 2025, 2026, let's say? Because obviously you don't do 40 40 projects simultaneously. So phase 2 was the first step, a step of prioritization. So we took those 40 projects, rolled them into larger initiatives, and then looked to prioritize those initiatives. So am I controlling here? I should have said.
No,
Is this
this is,
me? Nope.
this is your mic.
That's my mic.
It's okay, this is your,
Just using the arrows.
were you using these?
I do, just the arrow, yeah.
There you go. That's great. Thanks. So we came up with these 5 priorities that we thought would be the ones that would lead our work in the short and near term. And very quickly, 1, wires mitigation, and we'll talk in a little more detail in a few minutes about that. But the downtown district, our wires are overhead, contrary to what you see when you go to a lot of other towns around the Eastern Shore or even the Western Shore. Annapolis, Easton, you don't see those. So we still have wires. We'll talk about them in a minute. But when we talk about wires, we've limited it to 4 blocks. Basically, if you look there, this is High Street from Queen to Mill Street, and Cross Street from Maple down to basically where the Sultana building is. So those 4 blocks that fan out from the intersection of Cross and High, that's what we'll be talking about. Beyond the wires, but linked to the wires, is just the aesthetic streetscape, the infrastructure that we have on those 4 blocks. We think there are areas for upgrading and rejuvenation of that downtown streetscape.
So you're just talking facade, or are you talking like drainage or
We're
roads?
talking, we're talking curbs, sidewalks, pavement, crosswalks, parks, benches.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, more than just the facade.
Yep.
Yep. The third initiative area that we think has a lot of opportunity and upside to the gateway, and we looked at actually 4 or 5 different gateways, but the highest priorities one were the gateway from the bridge up 213 to Spring Street, which is where, of course, on 213, if you're approaching from the south or from the north down from the college, that's the first impression that the visitor gets of Chestertown. That's what tells them whether they want to drive through or stop and linger and join us here. The other gateway area that became one of our top priorities is at the marina. The marina is where boaters first experience Chestertown. And also we look at it from the other direction also. How do we draw residents and visitors from the downtown commercial core down to the marina and take advantage of all the facilities we have there? And the 5th top priority project that we identified is what we call the Town Mill Street property. That's number 5. And it's a parcel of about a little over an acre and a half between Cannon Street and the rail trail up by Mill Street. It's where the Sultana boat shed was. It's used today by the town utility crew for storage of their equipment and their materials. The town, it actually had originally brought this up as a discussion point, as a possibility. Maybe they could relocate that utility function to another part of town and develop that parcel for higher and better use, residential, perhaps mixed residential, commercial. It's in a very desirable location, a block and a half from the center of town. So that's definitely a priority. But I'm going to use my arrows, right? We went beyond these top 5. Obviously, we can't work on these 5 projects, these 5 priorities simultaneously. And so for 25-26 is what I'm finally getting to, is we believe we should focus on the first 2, the wires mitigation and the streetscape. And in fact, logically, if the wires are going to be buried underground, probably going to dig trenches and bury conduits. It's logical that you would do that before you would address the overall streetscape opportunities above grade level. So, let me see what I covered that. Yeah. So burying the wires, just, we could show, dozens of photos like this. We're only going to show one here, but this is on Cross Street. I counted the wires that go across Cross Street, just between High Street and Cannon Street. There are like 60 wires overhead. It's interesting. Some people I mentioned this to haven't even noticed. Others, they've seen them and they're as bothered by them as I am. But it's not only the wires, it's also the utility poles, the wooden utility poles, and the transformers on top of the poles. And then also, if you see, that's an example of one of the Cobra lighting fixtures that we have in downtown. In fact, most of our downtown district is lit by these Cobra lights, which to me look like something that should be on the Jersey Turnpike or in a parking lot or some commercial area. They're not period appropriate for a downtown that has more 19th and 18th century architecture than any other town in Maryland than Annapolis, right? Which we're all proud to be able to say. They're designed to be modern and sleek and efficient, not to be appropriate for a town like Chestertown. I will jump to the next slide then.
So how
Yeah.
do you work with the utility companies to do this and just generally like the logistics? It seems daunting.
That's the question that's on our minds constantly. If I could I ask you to hold?
Yeah, sure. I just
We're
want to make
gonna-
sure you get back to that. I don't want to forget. Okay, great.
That's a good one.
Actually, I'll mention, while we're looking at that picture, those wires, they're Delmarva, they're Verizon, they're Breeze Line, they're Talkie, they're Think Big.
Oh my God.
So we have those 5 utilities all using the same poles. So it is daunting. But if we don't start, it'll
No, yeah,
just never happen.
sure. Yeah.
But yes, I'll come back to that. Just to put a number on it, when you look at those 4 blocks, we're just talking those 4 blocks, there are 38 wooden utility poles on those blocks. And there are 26 Cobra lights hanging on 26 of those poles. And maybe before I leave this picture, I want to point out another thing. Besides the aesthetics, and I'll get back to the benefits of this a bit later, but safety is one that more and more comes top of mind for us when we look at this. And it has to do with the lighting downtown. This is not an efficient way to light a street because if you talk to safety experts, you want the sidewalk lit. You don't want the buildings lit. You don't want the trees lit. You're trying to light the sidewalk. But you can see when you hang your light 20 or 30 feet up in the air, these trees, when they get fully leafed out, they block the light, and you end up with very dark areas on the sidewalk interspersed with areas of light. So 38 poles, 26 Cobra lights. So we're not only burying the wires, we're removing poles and lights, and we would install new period appropriate street lighting. This is an example of a photo of what it looks like downtown if you've been there at night, in the evening. And once we remove the poles and the wires, I think probably everybody is aware of how the utility companies have the right to go through without even telling the town that they're showing up and prune the trees to maintain the integrity of their wires, and they end up cutting out the center of trees and chopping off the top of trees. And what this does is push the crown, push the branches and leaves down closer to the sidewalk and interfering really with the line of sight up and down the street, which again impacts the feeling of safety and security that people have walking up and down. You want to be able to see ahead and behind you to anticipate anything that might be coming. Again, the security experts will be telling us and helping us design a much safer aesthetic and functional streetscape when we get to that point. Planting new trees would be designed with a higher, what do you call it? Canopy. We want to push that canopy higher and open the line of sight and light from below the canopy, not from above the canopy. So these are just a summary of the high level benefits of what we're talking about, undergrounding the wires. Public safety, we want the streetscape and the sidewalks well lit with clear line of sight. But we also have seen studies where the service interruptions are reduced when you go underground. We had a pole hit a few months ago by a car and knocked out service for a good part of the day. Climate resiliency, I think that's self-evident. Improving the tree canopy for the functionality of the lighting, but also just for the aesthetics. And it's just an overall more welcoming feeling that you create. If you go to Easton, I don't think you'll see one wooden utility pole in their downtown commercial district. So back to priority project 2, that's the streetscape beyond the mitigation of the wires. I'm not going to go into details here, but these are the types of elements that would get studied and detailed. Curbs and sidewalks, crosswalks, shortening the crosswalks where possible to make the pedestrian crossing more safe, plantings, enhancing and maybe adding and expanding our public gathering spaces downtown, bike lanes, maybe we'll be riding e-bikes there soon. ADA ramps, wayfinding and parking, all of those elements would be to the goal of improving what we call the cohesiveness and connectivity. That downtown district, if you think of it, the 200 block of High Street down near the Garfield, then you have the Memorial Park and Fountain Park. They're all beautiful little locations, but there's not a great sense of connectivity. They're kind of chopped up. And that would be what the consultants have pointed out to us, and we agree would be a goal to make that a more cohesive, connected downtown space. And to shift the spatial balance from motor vehicles to pedestrians and other modes of transportation, bikes and e-bikes. The town really hasn't had a major renovation of that downtown district for decades, certainly before my time. I actually spoke with Elmer Horsey, mayor, before he passed away. He said back in the 80s he had the dream of putting the wires underground, and it's just never happened. So we're thinking it's time. And really that downtown, if you think about and look at it, is designed more for how to manage motor vehicles than how to enhance the pedestrian experience. And we have beautiful parks. The Fountain Park is just an amazing gem. We have the brick sidewalks and beautiful architecture, but the spatial balance between the vehicle and the pedestrian is something we would want to shift more to the pedestrian side. But at the same time, we need more parking. So one of the outcomes, we're going to be targeting 30% increase of parking, maybe not right there, but within a peripheral distant, walkable distance to that downtown. And again, just holistically create a more welcoming experience. But to say it's more than about curbs and sidewalks. If you elevate and kind of go up the ladder in benefits, the ultimate goal of everything that we're looking at is really the safety, health, and well-being of residents and visitors. And we want to have part of that is creating a strong economic and tourism development environment there. What we are all here, I think, have in our goals, and continue to enhance and broaden the cultural and recreational opportunities we have. Housing is part of everything that we think about also. We'd like to increase the number of downtown residents. Other towns have shown and tell us if you want to create more activity in the evening hours, which sometimes Chestertown's pretty dead. 5 o'clock, it's almost like, why aren't there people here? And we think there are reasons, some of it we've talked about. But part of it also is just the availability of affordable housing for people who would like to live downtown, live and work and enjoy the downtown. So what we hope is that the work we do will encourage building owners and investors to create more housing downtown. That parcel that I talked about earlier might be one opportunity, but there are others. And as Sunny mentioned, always keeping in mind that what we do should be sustainable and improve the resiliency of our district. So, Judy, right. The next steps. Thanks for waiting for this.
Well, I'm glad you were going to hit it. I didn't want you to skip over it.
Yeah, no. We had a first meeting with Delmarva back in December. Actually, just their lead engineer came and we did a walk around downtown. And we were kind of apprehensive. We didn't know, are they going to be pushing, straight arming us on this? And we were pleasantly surprised. He walked around with us and looked at these wires and said, there were sections where there were 4 wires up and down the whole stretch of High Street. He said they predate Delmarva taking over the utilities from the Chestertown Utility Company, which was pre-1980. He said they're probably not being used. That would be one of the first steps, he said, in this effort, would be to do a full study and analysis of what wires we need. We would need to go door to door, business to business, and understand what their power needs are, and then design the system to meet that. So the first encounter with Delmarva was encouraging. We haven't yet talked with Verizon, Breezeline, or the 2 fiber optic companies. But Delmarva, the Delmarva rep said he would help us organize that. But the first step we need to take is to contract with our engineering consultant. And after some thought, we agreed as a group that we would continue with the engineering firm we used for phase 1. This is GMB Engineering. They're out of Salisbury. They come highly recommended by other towns. We've asked GMB to give us a cost proposal for the engineering of phase 2, which they have done about 6 weeks ago. We had some questions and some areas we wanted clarification on, so we've sent it back to them, and we're waiting for their response to our feedback. But we hope to sign that contract, which will be for that phase 2 engineering work. One of the first steps will be working with GMB to organize a meeting of all the 5 utility companies and start that.
I have a question. All of this sounds very expensive,
Yeah.
and I imagine that it is. To what degree have you had success in grant writing for cost offsets? And are the town coffers so full that they are able to help you fund that?
No. The town has been very helpful in funding us so far for the phase 1 work, the hiring of consultants, and helping us. We're actually using ARPA funds to fund the phase 2 engineering work, but the actual phase 3, the implementation, first estimates $5 to $8 million. So we're not underestimating this. We're not under appreciating that at all. But we've talked with other towns. We just had a a Zoom meeting with a team from Cumberland, Maryland. They've just finished a $17 million renovation of their downtown. And they gave us, here are the funding agencies that helped them. Their suggestion to us is get your plan in place. You're not going to get money first before you have a plan. You don't say, give me the money and then we'll come back and tell you what the plan is. No, it doesn't work that way. So we need this phase 2 engineering study to then take to the funding agencies. But it's places like, Maryland Department of Transportation, the Environmental Department, community,
Housing and community development.
Yeah, housing and community development, thanks, Jamie. And at the federal level, Department of Transportation, they have rural programs. Department of Agriculture at the federal level has programs. We don't know where the money's coming from, so if that's the question, we don't know the answer. We just know that other towns have done it, and we think, then why not Chestertown? We need to take it seriously, and we'll be looking for resources, grant writers. I'm not a grant writer. Actually, Sonny's got experience, but we're going to need to find those resources to help us do that.
Thank you.
And that was our last point, source the funding. But we're actually at the point where we're going to begin to reach out and get a better understanding of how that funding should happen. But we won't be making asks until we're further down our phase 2 engineering work.
If I may, I'm curious about your discussions with Delmarva so far, and you're coming away from that with the idea that you needed your engineer to do a plan. Will Delmarva accept an outside engineer's plan, or might it be that you need to be funding Delmarva to do a plan?
Right, good question, because it's changed. When we first started just kind of brainstorming this 5-6 years ago, Delmarva said they would do the engineering, and it would cost us $500,000 for them to do the engineering. Since then, the meeting we had in December, they told us that they've now changed and they don't want to do the engineering. They prefer to have a third-party engineering firm doing that. I'm sure
That's a wonderful small miracle.
I was happy to hear it too.
Yeah.
I'm sure it saves them money, or there are advantages for them, I'm sure. But GMB has worked with Delmarva before, so that's one of the reasons we've chosen, and we like working with them. I'm sure Delmarva will have they'll be doing engineering work, but the overall project engineering will be done by GMB.
Great.
So I just want to say kudos. I mean, it's easy to become complacent and say, oh, Chestertown's wonderful and everything's fine. And so I give you a lot of credit, whoever started the process, for looking closely and saying it's time for a dress up or some improvements and we can do better. So what started that? And then what's the difference between a master plan and did you have a strategic plan? And how did that, like if we wanted to do something similar in the county, I just wanted to find what you did and maybe we can sort of replicate it somehow in the county down the road.
We didn't do so much a strategic plan for the town because the town council
They have one.
They had
Yes.
done that. And we've been to the town council multiple times, and we feel that the master plan is a subset that falls under the strategic plan, and they agreed. In fact, they now reference our master plan when they talk about their strategic plan. The strategic plan obviously doesn't give you the details even that we've gone to so far, and we're going to get into much more,
Yeah.
finer details beyond this. So it was fortuitous for us that the town did their strategic plan, so that we didn't need to do that. And master plan, as I mentioned, master planning came up immediately when our Main Street program was formed in 2017. And we can, as Sonny mentioned, Main Street programs go back to the 1970s, 1980s. You can go to their website and they have tools, entire, pages of documentation on how other towns have done master plans and why you should do them. So we were convinced very early as a Main Street group that that was something we would want to do. In these first 8 years, we've done a lot of grant writing, and we've received grants for facade improvements. We have passed through grants for facade improvements of about $50,000 every year over these 8 years. And that's one reason when you walk around Chestertown, I think you notice the facades look better. And because it's not only our funding that we're able to donate, but there's matching funds that go into that too. So, but those, and we bought the stage for the downtown, and we've done other things. But you start to realize those are kind of all one-offs, and you're throwing things with good intentions and good plans, but that master plan gives you the overall picture.
Yeah.
And the overall end goal.
Great, thanks.
So I'm cheating a little. I'm a planner, so I understand that this
thank-
language is my native language.
You could have answered this better than I did.
No, not at all.
I am not a planner.
Forgive my next question is probably too detailed, but you've talked to Delmarva, which is the main line source, but the other key as to when this can happen is when those roads are next up for repaving. Are they town roads, county roads? Have you looked into when next we can rip them up and put the vaults under?
That'll be part of this phase 2.
Got it.
We don't know that. Cross Street is a state road. And High Street, if I know this, it used to be a state road, but the town took it over some years back. So it's a mix. But there will be state highway involvement because of Cross Street.
Yeah, we have the same problem.
Those are,
That's actually good news. The state will put money into making your roads better.
we're hoping, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it, SHA, State Highway Authority?
Administration.
Yeah. Not necessarily easy to work with all the time. I mean, they have their ways of doing things, but we're hoping to engage them as a real partner in this, yeah. That's what other towns have told us.
Right.
Departments of Transportation are key partners.
So the last part of this is how can we help you?
By giving us advice and things that the county does that either we don't or that the county does better than the town. I think you write more grants than we do. If there's any resource that can help us with our grant writing when we get to that point, that'd be most welcome. And at some point, we expect also, when you talk about funding, CDBG funds, right? And going to the state for general funds. It would be pointless for us to do that if the county wasn't supporting the project. We'd obviously be looking for you for letters of support, not only on paper, but vocally and enthusiastically, hopefully, in supporting us.
For sure.
I have a thought. Our business is not in Chestertown, but our business who served about 10,000 people last year visiting us, and then, well, what's next for Kent County? Trying to figure out ways that businesses that also benefit greatly from having a vibrant downtown, whether it's in Chestertown or in Rock Hall or Galena. So when people are attracted, such as Crow Vineyard and Winery or Molly's or Hopkins Game Farm, how can we help support the process other than donating funds and money at the same time supporting and getting recognition and partnerships with the community. One thing that comes to mind, you say you're a 501c3, and I think I've broached this question before. Do you have to live in the district in order to be a member of the 501c3?
Do you want to?
So, yeah, sure. Main Street Chestertown is a 501c3, not a membership organization.
Okay.
Sometimes gets confused with the Downtown Chestertown Association, which is the merchant group.
So the people that are on your board, are they allowed to be outside the
Yes.
district?
Yes.
Okay. So you have a number of businesses from outside the district on your board?
Not specifically,
Not
no.
presently,
They're
but-
mostly in Chestertown, but we are not, you're not precluded.
It's
from
not
being on the board
exclusive.
because-
Okay.
Not at all,
Right.
I would say.
Well, I would suggest maybe seeking businesses from outside of Chestertown that then may help support the process down the road when you're, thinking about additional funding, especially from other businesses in the area.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah,
Good input.
I agree. That'd be-
Okay.
Yep, certainly be open to that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
All right. So we are at staff reports. So just want to mention the county website. As you all know, Katie and Sandy have been working on the development of the new county website. Our department's been working with Katie to transfer and update the business directories over the past week or so. And that work will continue through the end of the month. The business directory feeds the tourism pages, the family resources, as well as the general business directory for the county. But once we go live, we will be requesting that all the businesses kind of check their listing to make sure it's up to date. If there's any corrections or photos that need to be added or anything like that, we'll ask the business community and the organizations to check that. The live date is expected the end of July, so the end of this month. And updates are expected to go on from there. Like, once it goes live, that's not the end of the updates. Katie and Sandy will still be working on improving it and, handing out assignments to different departments based on what material needs to be updated. Yes, ma'am.
Just in regards to updates, will there be, are updates planned to be ongoing, or would there be, periodic times where people could add or subtract material?
Ongoing. It will definitely be ongoing, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions about the website? Because Katie can probably answer better than I if there are any questions,
Do we
and
have like a preview or anything, or have I missed that?
not at this time.
Okay.
Katie, do you mind coming up to the mic and say when the preview to the county commissioners are? Because, or we have it scheduled, right? But it's going to depend on timing.
Yeah, I think it's on the agenda. The goal is the 22nd at the commissioners' meeting. I don't know if I know stuff was put in. I don't know if it's on the agenda yet or not, but that's the goal, to present to the commissioners. And then hopefully after that, it'll be live. But like Jamie said, we're still working on the site. It's a big site, so.
But once we're sure that it's on the commissioner's agenda, because that project the lead is IT, once we're sure it's on the commissioner's agenda, we'll make sure that you guys are aware of it as well, so you have the information.
And Joanne, were you asking about just updates in general, or like the business listings?
I was actually just wondering, is it constructed so that you can go in on demand and change things, or do you have to go in at program times if you are reformatting? Is it, what platform is it on?
So it's through Revise. So Sandy and I can go in and make edits at any
Okay.
time, and the departments will be able to manage their pages. From the user side, like if you're a business owner, you can submit updates to your business listing at any point. There'll be a
Okay.
form on there, and then that'll get kicked back to our department, and we'll push your edits through. So,
Okay.
any other questions?
Thank you, Katie.
No problem.
Just marketing for economic development and tourism. As everyone knows, the FY 2026 budget is now been adopted. So we're in the process of doing insertion orders, contracts, purchase orders, all of the behind-the-scenes paperwork that we need to do. In the weekly report was the Beacon, the Eastern Shore Business Sentiment Survey. Please share that with your networks and businesses, and please complete that yourself for your business. The more input we get from Kent County, the better. And that's an ongoing project. If anybody needs additional information about that, I can certainly share that. We've had them come to a couple meetings to share the platform. Did want to mention the SBDC Small Business Webinar Series and the Community Office Hours. I did attach those flyers to the weekly report as well, but we are working with Rachel Skinner from the SBDC so that she has community hours here in Chestertown, and she may even go to like Rock Hall or Galena or Betterton, so we're working with her on that. And then she's also going to do a webinar series as well. And then from that, she's going to ask what other technical assistance our small businesses need and develop some webinar series from that.
Quick question, are retailers welcome in that process, or is that focused more on business?
Oh, you're always welcome to attend. The more you know, the more you can help someone else.
But I'm
Is that
asking
the
in
question?
terms of businesses they support, do they also support retailers?
Oh, yeah,
There are some
absolutely.
areas where the small businesses
Yep.
don't deal with the retail sector.
Absolutely.
Not here, okay.
And they're very focused on the retail, like, their organization is the one that promotes Small Business Saturday. So
Okay.
very focused on the downtowns and the small businesses as
Great.
well. So, yep, great
Thank you.
question.
So wait, you said you sent
Okay.
that to us, I just want to make sure I have it.
Yeah, in
What
the
was it under?
weekly report.
Okay.
I think I sent it over the weekend.
Over the weekend,
What
okay.
is the woman's name again?
Rachel Skinner. And her name is, her email address is on here as well. Yeah, so it's her name, so. But it's on that flyer as well, so. Did want to mention the CBS because we've had lots of questions as where it will air. So we do know it will be on WCBS in New York, KYW in Philadelphia, and WUSA in DC. And we have those dates for those segments. They're starting in August. And when we're, get a, the cut of it, we'll be able to share that on YouTube as well and share that with the commission and the visitors. Any questions about that? That is all I have unless there's any specific questions for me about staff reports.
The tourism group that met at Crow, did we have a report on that I missed that? Like, what were some of the takeaways from that?
No, we didn't have a real report on it. I can certainly ask the DMO president if she had any feedback.
Okay.
But, I mean, it went very well. I think everything went off without a hitch, and it was a good
What was
meeting.
the actual topic?
They
it
meet
destination
monthly.
marketing?
Maryland destination marketing organizations meet monthly, and they meet different places through it, and that was the meeting that they attended. They come to Kent County. They came a year ago, Shallon, and went to Haven Harbor, 2 years ago, went to Haven Harbor, and this year they went to Crow.
And they have an agenda and a,
They do. And they usually have a vendor who presents to the group as well, and they did this time as well. I don't remember.
Oh,
I'd have
okay.
to go back in my notes, but I don't remember. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was media one.
Yeah.
It was from Long Island.
yep. Yep. So, but, I mean, I can ask if there's any takeaways from that.
Okay.
But thank you. Any other unfinished business that I might have missed before we move on? Okay. So we're down to new business, and I am happy to say and thankful that we got expressed interest in serve for a chair and a vice chair. Joanne Rich expressed interest in serving as chair, and Joanne Gifford expressed interest, Judy Gifford, expressed interest in serving as vice chair. So we just need to make that official at this meeting today.
how do you do that?
A motion and a second, and then a vote.
I make a motion that Chair Joanne and Vice Chair Judy, do I have to say their last names too?
You good?
Can we get a second? Thank you.
Judy Gifford, Judy Gifford.
Did we get that right?
Yeah, we should say last names.
I guess we should, right?
You know what can happen?
All in favor?
I'd like to make you interchangeable.
Okay. Thank you, David. Perfect. Okay. All right. So that is done. Future agenda items, so our August meeting needed to be changed because we'll be at Mako, our normal second Wednesday. So we're going to be doing it the third Wednesday, which is August 20th. 20th at 3 o'clock, and Dr. McComas will be coming for introductions as well as updates on Kent County Public Schools. So we'll welcome her at the August meeting.
Great.
Any other discussion about future agenda items? I do not have anyone else planned at this time. Obviously, I'll be meeting with our new chair and vice chair to see if they have any recommendations for speakers that we want to bring in, but if any of the members have some recommendations, please feel free to either share them now or share them via email, people that you would like to hear from, and, get updates. Any
Should we
questions?
do a quick report to the commission from the housing subcommittee?
I think that's a great idea. So does Bob and
Yeah,
or
me
Fred wanna
first?
take
I'll
that?
just chime in, how's that?
The first effort was data gathering. And I think it's fairly indisputable from the material the planning department had already produced as part of the county comp plan, that there's very limited land available in the county for residential development where there's sewer service and appropriate zoning. It's our understanding, we learned in doing our initial research, that they now have an RFP or RFQ, whichever out, to hire a professional to look at that issue
A
specifically.
grant application.
A grant application. Oh, so they're not at the hiring level yet?
We have not gotten to that point yet.
Okay, they're
yes.
chasing money to do it.
Yes.
So we're not the only ones who have thought about housing as an issue. It clearly has the support of planning, and they're in the process of starting that process. I think that's as far as we've gotten thus far. I think one of the things we probably wanted to raise was some sort of role when that, if the grant comes in and that project starts, that we would play some sort of role in overseeing the work of that person along with the planning department. But I think that's as far as we've gotten so far.
And I would say, from that meeting, I think one of the other things that we kind of determined through that discussion was that the growth is planned in and around the towns. So, and the towns are kind of, I don't want to say doing their own thing, but the towns are doing their own thing. As I rode around Chestertown through the weekend, I've noticed lots of new homes, and same thing with Rock Hall, went down to Sharptown, and new homes down there as well. So there is some development going on, and we've got a couple of projects within the county. But this housing group, do we focus just on county, or do we focus on county and the towns? And just trying to figure all that out logistically, and just brainstorming at this point as to what we need to be looking
I
at.
think we need to focus on the towns as well, because they're part of the solution.
I agree.
And one of the tasks I've given myself, Lennar is a client of mine in other states, and the people I work with are giving me an introduction to the people that have just built in Chestertown. What I want to get from them is some sense of who bought in their community. It was a largely successful development from their perspective, but are they second homes? Are they retirees? Did that development actually have an impact on labor force in our county, and to what extent? Are there school kids in that development? Are there young people in it? To try and just get a sense that if we're pushing for new development, what can we expect as what comes out of that new development in relationship to the issues we care about? So I'm going to do that research and figure out what happened in what seems to be the most recent development that's happened in the county.
So it seems quite like a chicken and egg, so so a builder comes in and builds, but do we want to have some say in what type of housing that we want?
Yes.
We have to look at, where's the tipping point for schools? What's the critical point for schools? School kids are expensive. Retirees are not that expensive. What's the balance? What do we want? What are our goals as a county?
Yeah.
Instead of just letting the developer come in and decide what they want to do
Completely
without
agree.
any point, real vision for who, what, where, when, how.
Right.
The county wants to see the overall housing picture.
Well, yes, and where we got to isn't a negation of that. It was starting from the perspective of, we hear a lot about labor force issues, and that shelter is part of expanding our labor supply.
Right.
And the question is, what shelter expansion has a positive impact on the labor supply? And if we're going for labor supply, it's going to be younger people that'll being family generation era of their life, as opposed to retirees, which are great for drawing spending money to the county, but don't necessarily provide the young workers that the tourism industry needs.
Right. And then
So-
where are the elementary schools under an overcapacity, and where do you want to target? Nowhere, yes?
Yep. Well, and I haven't looked at the county's data, but nationally, we're in a baby bust, and our schools are shrinking.
Oh,
and
but Garnett
our-
is full, I think,
Yeah.
right? And then,
Well, the county's what, closed 2 or 3 schools?
Fifth grade, therefore opening up the spaces.
Oh, that's right.
in each of our elementary
yeah, that's right.
But we're having that discussion after the county's closed 2 or 3 schools in the last 10 years, right?
Right, no, sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, good.
But in conjunction with what you all were talking about today, one thing that is patently clear, living in and around Rock Hall, is the same issue that you're looking at in Chestertown, which is creating a living, working environment within the townships that increase foot traffic and feed those businesses that you'd like to see developed. And that's where I see this concept of affordable housing above retail operations that has worked so successfully in so many other applications in different cities. You see it, Annapolis has done that very well, by the way, I think, anyway. So that's something to be considered, for sure.
Great input. Anything else about the housing? Okay. We're going to move on to public comments and announcements. Dan, I always like to welcome, glad you're here. Do you want to share anything with us? Give us some updates? Besides it's summertime and everybody's getting their well-deserved break.
Great.
Well, some people, maybe not you.
I saw those vacation pictures.
Wasn't long enough.
I'll give you that.
Hi, I'm Dan DeVillio. I'm the communications specialist for Kent County Public Schools. Our real big announcement is that our Kent County High School principal, Chris Hemstetter, was recognized by the state superintendent and state board of education for being the high school principal of the year for the state of Maryland.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, she will be traveling to a national conference later this summer where she will compete for the National High School Principal of the Year. So, she's just a dynamo. Our Principal Hemstetter is really, she's first one in, last one out of that building. She just has an incredible rapport with the students, and she's really built a great administrative and teaching team at the high school. And, I'm really proud to get to work with her personally.
How long has she been in that role?
She has been at the high school for about 4 years now.
Okay.
She's been a principal for much longer.
Yeah, I
than
just
that.
couldn't remember when she moved up there.
Just out of curiosity, how do you compete to become principal of the country? First principal.
It's a similar process to the state and local levels, where there are a series of interviews and cohort classes and things like that go into it. Our middle school project, we're still moving forward with it. We are in the design process now. So that is just ongoing, and we are still on track, if all goes well, to have shovels in the ground this winter to get started.
What was the outcome of the funding from the state?
So what we will be receiving through the General Assembly after this past session, I believe it was $150,000 that will be available for maintenance of the current building going through this upcoming fiscal year. And then I have to double check my numbers. I want to say it was, I don't have it off the top of my head.
I don't remember either, Dan, but
Yeah,
I remember the conversation.
I know the last word is million, but I don't want to say too much or too little. It's not like 10 million.
Right.
But
Well, it's 8 million.
is it 8 million for each
there you
year?
go.
Yes.
Right, so
For-
there's 50-50 split, but then because we qualified for a couple of pockets of money,
Off on the side, I believe one is community schools and whatnot. It's not quite a 50-50 split, but on top of that, we also qualified for an additional 8 million that right off the bat would have come out straight out of the county coffers had not the state offered that
Yes.
up.
And we are having continued discussions with the District 36 delegation before the next session to see what else we can do at the state level for additional support there. So Dr. McComas will be here next week, so I don't want to take away too much
Next month.
from, next month, apologies, from her presentations, but we are working on things like a new strategic plan, a new PR and marketing campaign for the school system. It is a summer, so one of my favorite summer projects is updating our website. It's going to be even more mobile friendly than it is now. We're highlighting, making it easier for families to enroll. We're putting that right up at the top of the page as well. Same with volunteering. We'll have our volunteer information on each of our school pages, so it's easy to get involved and engaged with our school system. And then also, every time I like to remind everybody, we do have a free app that you can download. It's available through the Apple App Store and Google Play. You just search for Kent County Public Schools and you'll get all the news. You'll get our calendar. You'll get school menus. Everything's available right there with push notifications. And it's really great for families, especially those that may not be in an area with strong Wi-Fi service but get cell service. You're not eating up a lot of data by just going to the app and finding out whether or not your student is going to eat what's on the lunch menu for the day. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so just any other public comments and/or announcements?
I have one.
Okay.
I was at Lockbriar Farm with my grandson who had to have the strawberry ice cream, and Jackie was telling me that she did get on the ice cream trail. She talked to the Secretary of Ag, and he changed the rules so that her business would qualify. Because we talked about this a couple years ago, and I guess you didn't go high enough when you started, trying to figure out how to get on there. So she just went right to Secretary Addicts.
Good.
And now she's on there.
Cool. Exciting. Anything
I think
else?
this is a horrible marketing tool. But
Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? Have a great week, great month.
Thanks again for the.
Thank you. Oh, I forgot,
like a reminder earlier.
there's a meta meeting coming up this month.
Yeah, so Sunny's not gonna get this together. She needs a drink.
Sorry. What? There's a meta meeting, a meta training. Maryland